crazy little book page where I talk about books and the pages in them. So today is a What's Up Wednesday, and I haven't done a book tag in a long time, so I'm going to do the No Disclaimers book tag. It's a series of questions, and if you see me look down, that's because I don't know what the questions are. I'll link the original video from Allie over at Hardback Hoarder down below, and you can get the questions there. You can copy them from what I say. The first question is, what tropes or tropes in books annoy you the most? And this has to be my most hated trope, and that's the naive, weak girl trope, whereby she acts like she's unintelligent about the world around her and she's feeble, or like the dumb blonde type trope. That really needs to end. I literally hate that trope. Also, I hate the trope where you're in a horror book and you split up into two different groups or like different areas. Each person's going to a different area because it makes it easier for you to get killed. It makes no sense to me. It's a stupid trope. A stupid trope. Which writer or writers do you feel are overrated and overhyped? And two of the three writers I'm going to give you are writers that I read, and they're my auto-buy writers, but I do feel like sometimes they are overhyped just because of who they are. Not to say they're not great writers, but they are overhyped. Sarah J. Maas. I have never read one of her books, but I see her books everywhere. She is one of the overhyped authors that everybody wants to read, and I'm not saying that her books are not good because I haven't read any of them, but I just know that everybody buys her books like no tomorrow. The other two are Stephen King, who I actually read a lot of. I have a lot of his books on my shelf. So yes, I do read him. He is a great author, but he is also very overhyped. Everybody wants to read him. And Dan Brown is another one of those overhyped authors. Everybody wants to read him. Everybody wants to buy him just because he put another book out. Not to say he's not a great writer, because he is, but he is overhyped. What is your least favorite titles that you've read since joining BookTube? The French Girl, terrible book. I DNF'd that book because it was just garbage writing. Prince Harry, Boy to Man, What We Become, The Star-Touched Queen, and I'm not sure if I didn't like that book just because I didn't like the book and the writing was horrible, or I didn't like the book because of the narrator, because I read it on audiobook and the narrator was just terrible. So I don't know, I might pick it up and give it another chance just because I want to see if it was actually the narrator of the audiobook that was irritating me and made the experience really horrible. And The Sweetness of a Simple Life. It literally did not, the title didn't match the insides of the book, so it was terrible. What is a terrible ending that ruined an otherwise quality book? And I don't know that I've actually ever had that experience. Usually for me, I don't like a book because of how it started, or the middle part of it turned it into something terrible when it was an already great book. So I've never had the ending ruin the book otherwise. Which fictional character or characters do you wish wouldn't have got killed off? And I'd have to say, and if you haven't read this, I'm very sorry. I'm spoiling something for you. But I'd have to say Mabel from the Diviners series. I was so crushed by her death because Mabel is such a good character. So I think that book is, or that character by far is the most crushing character death that I've ever experienced. What are some of your bookish pet peeves? So that is my number one bookish pet peeve, is when somebody tries to make you feel guilty for liking or disliking a book that they either like or don't like, and tries to make you feel guilty for that. It goes without saying, everybody has a different personality, everybody has different reading likes and dislikes, and not everybody is going to like the same thing. So it's really asinine to tell somebody, that was my favorite book and I can't believe you didn't like it. It's irritating. What are some books you feel should have more recognition? So the books that I have written down here are not actual recent books. I do want to mention one recent book that needs a lot more, well, I don't even think it needs a lot more recognition, but The Hate U Give. If you haven't read it, you should pick it up because it is an amazing book. But Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, Number of the Stars by Lois Lowry, Schindler's List by Thomas Keneally, Underground Canada by Barbara Smucker, and The Help by Catherine Stackett. All of those books are amazing books. They have an amazing message, and more people should be reading them and should be talking about them, because they, even though they were written years ago, they still have relevance in today's general life. And the last question is, what are your thoughts on censorship and banning books? I don't believe that books should be banned. Here is my thoughts on that. Books should never be banned. Most banned books that are banned are because they have racial content that isn't okay, like The Catcher in the Rye. Yes, I understand why people would want that book, because the language is not something that we would see in today's world. But in general, I don't think it's a government's job or a school's job or an administration's job to tell people what they should be reading or what they should be liking or what books are good for them to read or what books I shouldn't read. I think that it should definitely be up to parents and the students themselves to govern themselves on what's okay for their kids to read or what's okay for them to read. As a child, I read a lot of books that were questionable in nature, but I also learned a lot of good lessons from those books. The Catcher in the Rye is actually one of my favorite books. J.D. Salinger is an amazing author, and I think that The Catcher in the Rye definitely needs more recognition because it does teach a valuable lesson. So my thoughts on banning and censoring books is it just shouldn't be done. People should have enough governance over themselves to know what triggers them and what's not okay for their kids to read. What one parent says isn't good for children to read may not be what another person thinks is good for children to read. That being said, a lot of people disagreed with my parents letting me read J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye, but that was their choice to make, and I'm so glad that they let me read it because I got something out of it, and I'm going to let my child also read A Catcher in the Rye because I think he will get something out of it. Will I let him read it now at the age he is? No, I would not let him do that. But when he is about 13 or 14 like I was, I will probably hand it to him and say, here, you could probably get something out of this. So it's coming, and I am a good judge of what's okay for my child to read and what I feel comfortable with him reading. And I think that goes for a lot of parents. So I think that banning books and burning books, not okay. Because every book has something to give someone, even if it's not what we ourselves agree with. And with that, I'm going to see you guys next video. Bye!